Now that everyone's seated, I would like to present our first event of this 3-day summit. We are now having our first speaker. This is Miss Miranda Naiman. She is a former IST alumni, and today she'll be talking about herself and the company that she has founded, Empower. So please give a warm welcome to Miss Naiman.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can I get you to stand up, please? And can you just give a high five to the person on the left? High five. With a bit of energy, please. And the person on the right, and the person behind you. Because everyone's in their groups, they're sitting with their friends, so I just want to make sure you've said hello. Okay, you can sit down now. We're good to go. It's such a pleasure and a privilege to be here, to be back in a place that I called home for many, many years. The MPH looks a little bit smaller. I don't know if you still call it the MPH or it's got another fancy name. But thank you for having me. That's the first thing that I want to say. I'm here to talk about my journey, but more importantly, how we can be of service to other people. And the theme that I was given by the organizers of this conference was Kutoa mkono, which means to lend a hand in Kiswahili. So I just want to give you a minute to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to just quickly brainstorm, when was the last time you helped somebody? And I will be coming to find an example. Did you help someone this morning? Yesterday? Whoever's not speaking is the person I will go up to. I need an example of what you did to lend a hand. Okay, time's up. Do you want to be brave and share how you help? You look brave. Go on. Tell us your name.
My name is Noah. My name is Noah, and I helped someone today by helping them finish their work.
Well done. A round of applause for Noah. And Noah, you're in grades. What grade are you in? Grade 5. Bless his heart. Okay. Oh, another grade 5. Guys, you're getting run out here.
My name is Rivara, and last night I helped my little sister go back to bed.
Thank you. So you helped your sister to get ready for bed, is that right? Somebody not from grade 5. Some of these international delegates that have flown in. Hello, madam. Your name?
Hi, I'm Krista. Should I stand up? Oh, I'm Krista. I helped with the dishes.
You did the dishes. That's very sweet of you. Okay. So, a day shouldn't go by where you have not lent a hand or supported someone in some way. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is give you some context. Who I was back then, who I am now. We're going to talk about the world and how it's shifting and changing. And then we're going to talk about what's going on in Africa and Tanzania specifically. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how you can be more helpful and how you can harness your true potential. So this is me then, class of 2000. I kid you not, we were the worst behaved class of IST, unless that record has been broken since. I doubt it. And if you zoom in, I think to the bottom right corner, there's a very moody person with an attitude with an orange top. That would be me. And school was an amazing place. We really enjoyed it. I was very involved in arts and sports, drama in particular. How many of you have done the 10-year challenge? I'm hitting you with the 20-year challenge here. So 1998, I'm in IB1 at that point. 2008, so 10 years later, I had my son, Micah. Actually, he goes to Hopak. Any Hopakers in here? Can't hear you. Hopak, oye! And 2018, so myself and my son, who's now 10 and a half. So that's my 20-year challenge there. So back in school, I was very aware of my privilege in the sense that for you to be sitting in this room wearing the clothes and shoes that you're wearing, enjoying the AC, with the facilities that are surrounding you, to be in the international school system is an incredible privilege. that you might not quite understand until you go out into the working world. You are incredibly privileged. Never forget that. I was aware of my privilege. In fact, I went to IST because my mother taught here. She taught for 28 years, and one of the benefits that teachers enjoy is that children come to the school for free. I can say I would not have been at IST had it not been for my mother and the contribution she made to the school. I skipped grade 8. That sounds like it might be quite exciting, but it was really tough because I lost all my friends. So when you jump a grade, your friends are behind, and then they think, in Kiswahili, unaringa, you're showing off, you're better than them. Actually, I struggled with sciences because I didn't have the basics. But in terms of my family, we are a family of educators. If I look at my dad's side of the family and mums, they're either in business or they're teachers. So it's in the blood. And my business that I will tell you about in a moment is also about educating and empowering people. I'm the firstborn. I had to mention that. Are there any other firstborns in the house? We are natural born leaders, right? We always have to do a little bit extra when it comes to lending a hand. I think someone said they helped their little sister get to bed. Yeah, that doesn't stop. And also an important factor is tough love. I was raised with very tough love, particularly from my dad. Nothing was ever good enough. And so that pushed me to greater heights. And it's only recently that my dad actually said he was proud of me. This is 9 years into my business when he said, you know what, I'm happy with what you've achieved. And I think I've worked very hard to gain his approval in that sense. So this was my dream. Oops, sorry, that picture's slid in the wrong place. So when I was at IST, when I was in high school, I wanted to be Tanzania's first commercial airliner pilot. I wanted to be flying the Dreamliner. However, there was a guidance counselor at IST, and there's no bad PR here, who told me I couldn't do it. I didn't have good enough grades in mathematics, and I wasn't very good at physics and chemistry, and so I was told, this is not your career. In fact, I did a quiz, you know those ones where they tell you what the best career line would be for you? Mine was a firefighter, okay? I'm not quite doing that, although I do fight fires in my business, for sure. So the reality, I'm not a pilot. This is kind of my moment that happened last year. I was in Success Magazine. For the business that I've started, I've branded myself the accidental entrepreneur because I didn't plan to set up a business. And such is life. Not everything can be planned. Sometimes you fall into things and you need to embrace it and you need to put your best foot forward. And this was despite some very difficult personal circumstances. I had a 6-month-old baby at the time that I started my business. I went through a very difficult divorce 2 years later, but we won't talk about that. But you overcome. Nothing can hold you back. So yes, I'm a mother. I write in newspaper, in The Citizen. It's something I do on Sunday nights. So when my friends are like, hey, let's go have a sundown, I'm like, I'm writing articles. There are sacrifices that come with growth and development. I train. I do public speaking. In fact, my teams are all over the city at the moment, some in Bagamoyo, some in town. We do leadership programs. We do project management courses and the like. I sit on a number of different boards, and I will talk about service. You have to go beyond your own entity. What can you do for other organizations as well? But the key thing that I want to highlight is at the bottom there, those last 2 points. Anything that I have built has been based on this and these, not money. So sometimes we're held back and people will say, you can't set up a business unless you have capital. Wrong. You can set up a business with your brain and your hands, as long as you're willing to put in the effort, intellectual capital. So that has been very important for me. And my personal drive, an insatiable hunger to create an impact. I always want to leave every interchange or every relationship better than I found it. So some of our clients that we work with in Tanzania and across East Africa, we work with UN agencies, we work with NGOs and banks. Our company is an HR consulting firm. You can see our team on the top left there, enjoying a retreat in Morogoro. The people that you surround yourself with are critical. You have to have the right team members or the right crew to back you up. I cannot have this success on my own. It is based on the people that are around me. We work with children. We have a Kidpreneurs program, as you can see there. We teach children how to be business-minded. We teach them because we know that in the future, there won't necessarily be the same jobs that there are now, and you need to be able to be autonomous and set up your own business and support yourself and others. So we have programs for kids. We have youth academies where we're training young Tanzanians. They come out of universities, they have top grades, but they cannot find jobs. Sometimes because of communication skills or lack of exposure. Remember, I told you you're privileged. So not everyone has the exposure that you've had. We've recently opened a cafe. So if you look on the bottom corner there, we've become a convener, a place where young people with a growth mindset want to meet up and exchange ideas and set up businesses. And then that picture at the top there, the city, this area is now called Silicon Dar. So I know you may have heard of Silicon Valley, but this has now been branded Silicon Dar. And because there was nowhere for anyone to get a cup of coffee, that's what spurred us to set up the cafe. So humble beginnings, 2009, the pursuit of freedom. People will often say, why did you set up a business? Why did you go solo? A lot of people thought I was very stupid. And it was a big risk. I wanted flexible time. I wanted to be able to stay at home as much as I would work. So maybe have 1 or 2 training programs that I would do in the week. That doesn't quite work out when you run your own business. You work day and night. IST was actually my first client. So the first check I ever got was from IST, and I was doing some communications work. And at that time, the school said, please, Miranda, we want you to come and work with the school full time. But when you've committed to something, which was to go solo, I decided to stay the course. I started the company from my bedroom. There was no office. I didn't own a laptop. It was borrowed. I had no car. I would write proposals on the borrowed laptop. I would take my Bajaj. I would arrive, clean my shoes, go in, pitch, win the contract, deliver, and whatever money I made from each contract, I would invest it back. I wish I could take you to our office now. We now have a floor in Silicon Dar. We have a team. We have a very comfortable environment. It is not the same as it once was. My first office was rented from my dad. Something else, sometimes a misconception. People say, oh, your dad helped you out. He was so strict with me. He wanted a year's rent up front. He was much nicer to his other tenants than he was to me. But it teaches you, right? It pushes you to be better. And blood, sweat, and tears. That's what gets you to where you want to get. Right, what do you see here? Can you shout from the back? An apple-orange mixed together. So what does that represent? What are a few words that come to mind? Change, shift, transformation, or in Tanzania, we keep hearing the word industrialization. The world is currently in this state, apple-orange. We are not what we once were. We are in a state of shift, and it's all about how you, as youth, the future leaders of the world, are going to adapt to this new environment, because what worked for your parents is not what's going to work for you. Excuse me. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that are going on in the world, and then a few things that you need to think about as an individual. So I call this current world the VUCA world, and this is a term that actually comes from the army. And VUCA, the world is incredibly volatile. Look what's happened in Nairobi just recently, and across the continent and the globe for that matter. Very volatile. Things are extremely uncertain. We don't know what's around the next corner. Very unexpected things keep happening. Things are increasingly complex. Relationships are getting tighter. And they're also ambiguous. There's a lot that we don't understand. So if you're a young person growing and trying to thrive in a VUCA world, how are you going to survive? As I said before, what worked for the older generation will not work for you. The standard way of living is not how it's going to be for you. So you have to be ready and you have to adapt. So can I give you a moment to just talk to the person next to you? What does this new VUCA world mean for Africa, for your country, because I know not everyone here is Tanzanian, for your school, that should say, and for you? What does it mean, this changing world? I'm going to walk that way. So what do these changes mean for you? How does Africa need to adapt? How does your school need to adapt? Can I choose a HOPAC student? Yes, no? Any ideas on changes we need to make? How can our school adapt? Any volunteers? Let me make this a bit easier. How do you need to adapt? Think about yourself. What do you need to do differently to fit into the apple-orange world?
Do I have to? I think that to change yourself and to adapt, you need to understand the culture that you're currently in and try to fit in with the people and try to understand how they work, what do they like to do more, and how to tackle them. And yeah, I think that culture is really important, and the community that you're in is really important.
And your name? Andre. So Andre was saying we need to have increased understanding, particularly of different cultures, different people. I would agree with that. Let's take one more from this side. What other changes do we need to make? Can I pick you?
So, from our discussion, we believe that we could also be the ones to make the changes happen, the good changes. And for example, you said Nairobi, with the incident that has happened, we could change that in that we can come together, come up with solutions and such things. So we could be the ones making the changes. Yeah.
You are our only hope, actually. If you guys are not making the changes, we are done. So we're depending on you as the next generation. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to think about some practical tips or some practical things we can do to make these changes. So the first thing you need to understand is acceptance. The world is changing. You need to go with the flow. But not only float and just go where the world takes you. You need to have some kind of purpose. You need to move with speed, precision, and intent. You need to know where you're going. So I know this is an incredibly difficult time. As a young person, you might not know what exactly you want. Maybe you do, and that's phenomenal. It might change as well. I wanted to be a pilot. But you need to be able to go with the flow with precision, purpose, intent, and speed. Some future trends for Africa that I hope you discussed. There's this constant need for communication, instant. People have expectations of you, particularly this generation. How many of you have had a situation where you've not answered a message and 2 hours later there's a hunt? People think you've gone missing. Yeah? Raise your hand if that's happened. You didn't pick up your phone or you didn't answer a message and everyone said, what's going on? Let me call around and find where Miranda is. That's not how it was for us. So that's already a change. Mostly grade 5, that's happening. Thank you, grade 5. There is more customer centricity. That means everything you do, you need to think about the end user. Who's going to use your service? Who's going to attend your event? And so on. There is an absolute focus on customer centricity. Digitization and tech. Personalization. How many of you receive emails that say happy birthday? Maybe from a shop that you're registered with. But they don't actually know it's your birthday. It's just that you've registered some information online. How do you feel when you get that email? You feel special. You stand out. And of course, there's AI. Some jobs will not exist because of machines that are being developed at present. So I want to talk about 5 key areas of how you can lead your own life. Authentic leadership, when you are truly yourself and you want to make a difference and lend a hand. And these are the 5 different concepts I will very briefly go through. So the first one is alignment. A moment ago I said we need to go with the flow, but we need to go with purpose and with precision. So you need to have a vision. You need to know where you're going. So the organizers of this event, could you just raise your hand? The organizers. They're around. Oh, they're around the back. They're in the dark blue shirts. You will have had a vision of what you wanted to accomplish with this event. We want to bring people together from across the continent. We want them to have rigorous training or learning. We want them to have knowledge exchange, whatever your objectives were. But you need to know what you want to achieve. But you need to be aware of yourself as well. Who are you in that space? And how are you adding value to other people? You need to be able to observe and see changes and shifts. You need to be able to look at the room, around the room, and see, are people bored? Are they interested in what's being said? Do they wish they were in math class instead of being in this room right now? And you need to be able to create that change. The young lady on the front row just said, we are the ones that need to make the change. And that's absolutely true. So relentlessly focused on your end user or your customer. You need to know where you're going. So my first tip on that is you need to step up. In order to make change, you have to put yourself forward. You have to go the extra mile. You have to do more than others are doing. You need to think about how you can contribute more in your community. That's called stepping up. Sometimes we're shy and we think, oh, no one asked me to do this, so maybe I shouldn't do it. Step up. Be a leader in your community. Volunteer. Give your time. Give your energy. Whatever skill you have, donate it, volunteer, but you have to step up. Don't wait for someone to ask you. Lead the charge. So that is the first tip. Step up. The second one is about how we communicate. Your networking skills. The people that you meet in this room, you might know forever. So make sure you don't stick in your schools. Make sure you mingle, you mix. By the end of these 3 days, you should have friends for life. People that you may set up businesses with in the future. Or you go on holiday to their country and you want to visit them. But you need to go out of your comfort zone and say, okay, I know the guy to the left and the right, but I don't know her over there. I'm going to go up and introduce myself. I'm from this school, and this is what it's like in Zambia. How are things in Tanzania? Oh, sorry, I heard about what happened in Kenya. You guys okay? Connect, network, listen, understand to what's being said, and think about how you can strategically collaborate with other people. And the final point there is the words that you choose to use. Be impactful with your words and your image. Choose what comes out of your mouth. Don't talk and then think. Think before you speak. So tip number 2 is always add value. What can you do to go the extra mile? I put this picture here because this was a defining moment for me when I interviewed Mo Dowji. And it was at an event that I organized on behalf of entrepreneurs across Africa. It was an insane time. It was February last year. I didn't get much sleep, but I single-handedly put this conference together in Zanzibar. This is a proud moment for me because I wanted to add value to the other entrepreneurs in Africa. And managing to get Mo to sit there and talk to us about his journey was incredibly impactful. We had 3 days of an event, but always add value. Think about what you can do to support others. 3 out of 5, engagement. It's about how you connect. I use this term a lot, growth mindset. There are 2 categories of people. There are people who have a growth mindset. They have a hunger for learning. They always want to know more. They're curious. They learn on their own terms. It's not because the English teacher said you need to read this book, but what about the books that you would like to read? What about the additional knowledge that you'd like to gain? So think about how you can make meaningful connections and grow, and how you can always serve with quality, so service excellence, always giving your best, and more importantly, how you can share your time, energy, and skill sets with other people. I asked you earlier, when was the last time you lent a hand to somebody? Some people struggle to come up with an example, but you should have examples every day of that. So my tip for engagement, service before self. I mentioned my dad. This is my dad. This is him 2 weeks ago, actually, in the new cafe. And this was a very defining moment for him. He hadn't been into the new office. He's somebody that supports from afar. He came into the office 2 weeks ago. And I say service before self because the business that we've now built supports my entire family, supports my siblings who both work in the business, supports my father, supports my son. You can build something that supports staff and their families. It's just about having vision. So I talk about service before self. I'm not in it for me. I'm in it to be able to provide for other people. What do you think the next one is? We've got a guy with a goat on his back, carrying it like it's a baby, on a bicycle. I've never seen this. Has anyone seen this? Imagine this guy was told by his mom, I want you to go down the road 20 kilometers and buy a goat, bring it back. We're going to have it for dinner. Would you consider carrying the goat like that? No? What would you do? Would you tie the goat to the back? Wouldn't be very comfortable for the goat. Some people might tie the goat and have it running alongside the bicycle. But this is the quickest way to get a man, a bicycle, and a goat from A to B. And so I call this innovation. When you do the same things in a different way, innovation is about thinking outside the box, not even outside the box, pretend there's no box. What could I do if there were no rules? What could I do if I could double the amount of time that I could invest in this project? What would I do if money was no object and I could invest whatever I wanted in something? Think about how you can stretch your limits and solve difficult problems. That's where the value add lies. And don't be scared. If there's something that you fear, that's something that should draw you closer. So tip number 4 out of 5 is solve a problem. This might be a relatively small problem, but in Silicon Dar, there is nowhere that you can get a good cup of coffee. So over Christmas, we set up a cafe. That could be a small problem to solve, but you could solve problems around wastewater management. You could solve problems around teenage pregnancy. You could solve problems around orphans who may not have access to education or access to books. What problem can you solve today? It could be relatively small, but it will grow with time. The final concept is adaptation. I absolutely love that picture of the chameleon because it accurately defines how we need to be. The essence of the chameleon doesn't change. It is the same person. I am not saying that we should all be switching, and with our friends we're like this, and with our parents we're like this, and at school we're like that. No. You should be consistent with who you are, but you do need to adapt the outside accordingly, depending on who you're speaking to and what it is that you're doing, the same way you choose what clothes to wear to a particular event. So modify your approach and also be agile, be flexible. My tip on that is growth mindset, I would say. I invest a lot of time in learning. You never know enough. And connecting with people. This is Dandapani. I don't know if any of you know him, but very possible. He's a Hindu priest, and he talks about mindfulness and how we control. He says, where awareness goes, energy flows. So whatever you choose to think about and focus on, that's where all your energy is going to go. So if you're going, I'm going to fail this exam, I'm going to fail this exam, you're probably going to fail it because that's where all the energy goes. So speak kind words to yourself and think about how you can control your mindset as well. So earlier, VUCA world, it was volatile, it was uncertain, it was complex, and it was ambiguous. This is how I want you to think about it. If you want to survive in this new world, you need to have a vision, you need to know where you're going or what it is you're doing, even if it's short term. You need to be more understanding, and I think Andre mentioned that earlier. Understand each other, understand the country that you live in, the culture, understand the politics at play. You need to seek clarity. Don't be comfortable to sit in the dark. Seek to understand what is going on. And you need to have agility. You need to be flexible, duck and weave and change. Think about the chameleon. And that is the key to surviving in a VUCA world. The final image that I wanted to leave you with is that, and it's a personal one for me, that failure is not an option. When I started my journey, a lot of people told me I couldn't do it. I wouldn't make it. I was stupid. Why would you risk setting up a business with a 6-month-old baby? Why would you do it? My own father said to me in Kiswahili, unapenda kujitesa. It means you like to trouble yourself. You like problems. I love problems. I love problems because they lead you to solutions. I love a challenge. I love it when you tell me I can't do it because then I'm going to show you that I can do it. So think about the people that you surround yourself with. Make sure you're around good people. Cut out people that are not supportive of your hustle. And harness this mindset and you'll do great things. I don't know if we're out of time, Dominato. Take 10 minutes. Wow, okay. Takeaway question for all of you. How can you do more to service your family, your school, your local community, so outside the school, your country, or the global community? I just want to give you a minute or two to think about that. You don't have to answer it now. But if you take away anything from this talk today, it is to think about what more you can do to serve other people. There is your family, putting your little sister to bed or washing the dishes, but it goes far beyond as well. And sometimes we think we don't have money, we don't have time, we don't have any skills. Nobody wants anything from me. But every single person in this room has a God-given talent and a skill and something that they can do for somebody else. So please leave knowing that there's more you can do and more you can be. Thank you very much. If you'd like to follow us on social media, this would be it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I think Dominata has a microphone if anyone has any questions. Anything at all. If you do have questions, you can ask me on Twitter. Thank you so much. It's been a real honor and a pleasure. Thank you to the organizers. You're doing an amazing job. You're serving. You're stepping up. Be blessed.
So a big thank you to Ms. Naiman. Thank you for being here with us today. So before we move on to the next event, we have some snacks available if you're feeling hungry. They're on the other side of this partition. Therefore, I'm going to ask all the delegates to, if you do want a snack, please exit through this side and re-enter on this side so we can line up properly. Other than that, I think we will have about half an hour before our next activity, which are global villages. Thank you.